It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, on the road tonight on the Palmetto Pigskin Tour in-season drive around the state of South Carolina. We are in Charleston, South Carolina's coolest city by far. We have been all over the state, of course, based out of Columbia, been to the upstates, been to the PD. There is nothing that tops Charleston. And we are here to visit with the folks at the Citadel tonight. We're at the Carolina Ale House on Calhoun Street. This is a heck of an establishment. Come on in and see us. We're upstairs in the bar area up on the third floor. Beautiful view out over downtown Charleston, even though it's a kind of a coolish, overcast night. They've got the heating lamps turned up. You can sit outside or come inside to the bar area. We're going to have Coach Brent Thompson here with us in our second hour and more from the Citadel as well. They have a huge game this weekend. It's the big rivalry game with Furman, and the Bulldogs seeking to build on a little momentum from last week and see if they can. They do not play comfortable games. Almost all their games, up or down, are very close in nature. So we'll talk with Coach Thompson about what's ahead for his team tonight and other folks from the Citadel as well. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic here, the Professor Tom Hayes back at our studios in downtown Columbia. We are loaded up with stuff tonight. Brad Lawing will join us after our next break. Brad, of course, well known in the state as a longtime assistant coach with the Gamecocks. Most recently, he was on the staff at Florida State until the turnover there. He's back living in Columbia now, waiting for his next coaching stop. No one we can talk to really, Will, who would know more about Brian Burns, Hamza Nasir-Ildeen, that Florida State defense in particular that will try and slow down Clemson on Saturday.
You mean the one that I think that Clemson's going to win by 17 or more? That same
I think
one?
That's the one you're thinking about.
I just want to make sure. And I'm sure he'll have some thoughts about the Gamecocks as well as they get ready to play Tennessee. I would say he's uniquely qualified to come on the show this week of any weeks when it comes to these two matchups. And again, you know, I hate to belabor the point that I've been trying to get inside your very, very large and dense head over the course of the last couple of days.
Yeah.
But so much of these two opponents for both Carolina and Clemson, I think, mirror each other. Very storied programs, lots of talent on both sides of the football, but not able to put it together. And again, first-year coaches that I think have mammoth jobs in front of them to try and restore both of these schools to prominence. And, of course, when it comes to the patience that these two administrations athletically have, they're very, very short on that. I know that I was talking to your friend Jimmy Himes today for our interview that will air on Opposition Research tomorrow on Sports Talk. The big problem at Tennessee is the fact that they just have not had a lot of patience with the previous two coaches. The head coach before that, Lane Kiffin, was out after 1 year because he went to take the job at Southern Cal. But when you think about Derek Dooley and you think about Butch Jones, neither of those two were really able to kind of get their footing when it comes to a program. He believes that Jeremy Pruitt will get 3 years. I think it's going to take more than that to rebuild Tennessee, and I think even that for what's going on at Florida State with Willie Taggart, he'll take at least that long because of the fact that there was just so much just bad vibes around that program.
You know, Will keeps hammering me on my suggestion that these games are going to be tight. I'm even willing to sit here tonight as I've looked further at it and examined the personnel, looked at the schemes, the numbers, and everything. I mean, I'm not going to be shocked if the Gamecocks and Tigers lose on Saturday. I know, and I know from a Clemson standpoint, I mean, that's
heresy.
Bite your tongue, but
that's heresy.
This game, from a Clemson standpoint, it worries me for the Tigers. I think they're stepping into something that they had better be on their best behavior, and you're going to really see what the freshman quarterback can do under duress, because this Florida State defense, they can bring it. And we'll find out more from Brad about it, but they can bring some pressure, and Clemson's offensive line is going to be tested a little bit.
Well, you know, the easy, I guess you could say, formula for looking at any team is any game is if any team, the Cliff Notes version, if both teams are playing at their optimum, who wins the football game? Obviously, the answer is Clemson. For Florida State to do any damage in this game, Clemson will have to help them. What does Florida State have to do? The key point, if Florida State is to be successful, is they have to create some turnovers. If they can't create turnovers, they might as well light a cigarette and put on a blindfold.
Well, one thing they can do is sack the quarterback. And listening to Willie Taggart this week, he said he noted that Trevor Lawrence is a special quarterback. They realize the guy can make all the passes. He's got the arm to do it. What they've got to do is rattle his cage. What they've got to do is hit him and put pressure on him and see if they can make him feel like an 18-year-old or 19-year-old, wherever he happens to be, a guy who's just a year removed from high school playing at Doak Campbell. And I expect that this is going to be a pretty juiced up Florida State crowd. This is their national championship game.
I understand.
They realize they're not playing for anything big this year. Boy, to get Clemson's scalp at a time when Clemson's number 2 in the country, for Willie Taggart and his staff, that would be the message to the Florida State people. Hey, we've got something going here.
But, you know, football fans of the Sunshine State are fickle corn. It's a noon kick. I don't know if there's going to be as juiced up an atmosphere as you think. I think that it'd be lucky to be 3/4 full in my mind. I don't see a lot of that enthusiasm from the Florida State crowd. And the other part of this too, the only thing that would give me pause and gives me pause for Clemson is the fact that we have not seen Trevor Lawrence endure any kind of real-time in-game adversity since Kelly Bryant has left this team. Ever since Kelly Bryant has left this team, we've had a situation where he got injured in a game and was not able to return. He beat a very, very overmatched Wake Forest team, and he had his best game as collegiate against NC State. The games before that, they had the security blanket of Kelly Bryant to go to. So from that perspective, I'm curious to see how he at least deals with his first little bit of adversity. If it comes this week, I just feel like so much of this offense, is firing on all cylinders. And there's no one has been able to at least prove that they can stop either phase when one of them is going at optimal speed.
The key to Clemson right now is because they're talented, and people talk about their talent, but they're extremely confident. and they're confident in their coaches. I wish I had a judo expert here, but isn't it that the tactic of judo is to use a guy's leverage against him? See, I think Florida State is going to be jacked up. And I'm like Corn. I know they're going to be jacked up. If I'm Clemson, I'm going to misdirection them to death. And I'm going to make them just run themselves out of plays. And I would think probably right now Clemson is practicing 2 or 3 versions of their screen game against Florida State's pass rush. I just see it coming.
And the thing that concerns me about Tennessee's ability to hang with Carolina is just the mode of how they lost to Alabama. They were riding high off a victory against Auburn. A loss like that to Alabama is like the one. It looks like the one the old adage says, one loss can beat you twice. I feel that fear is probably beset in for Tennessee.
I don't know. I think people, when they lose to Alabama, they just realize they're up against a superior team, and you just take your loss and try and move on. I think Tennessee people are probably looking more at that Auburn game and saying, look, man, we went into Auburn on the plains, and we whipped them boys. And now we're going into Columbia, and this team is not as good as Auburn. That's probably what they're saying. And we can go in there and do the same thing if they play good football.
But they're going in without their top offensive lineman. We found out today that Trey Smith of Tennessee will not play. He is out indefinitely with a blood clot issue that basically befell him during the offseason. He couldn't be he basically couldn't take contact for 6 months. So he missed a lot of the offseason program. He was able to get back in the swing of things right before the beginning of the season, but that problem has resurfaced. So they're going to have to do some reshuffling on the offensive line for Tennessee.
Also without their top linebacker, too, who got hurt in that Auburn game. But what they do have is a running game. And Ty Chandler in particular, who's very good coming out of the backfield catching passes as well. He's very dangerous there. And you know that is going to be an area that Jeremy Pruitt and his offensive staff, they're going to try and hit the Gamecocks where they are the weakest
and
there.
A battered quarterback. When it comes to Garantano, they might have to go to Keller Christ if Garantano can't get it done.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment. We're going to find out more about Florida State. Looking forward to this. Brad Lawing joining us here next on Sports Talk Carolina Ale House in Charleston. The Bulldogs coming up in hour number 2. Back in a moment.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Coming to you from the Carolina Ale House on Calhoun Street in downtown Charleston, this is Sports Talk on the Road, our Palmetto Pigskin Preview Live. We'll be talking Citadel football coming up in the second hour. The Bulldogs getting ready for Furman to come to the Low Country here, just across the downtown area here, Johnson Haygood Stadium. We'll be very, very happy to see the folks here from the Citadel. I'm getting hungry. I don't know about you, dude. This food is starting to smell amazing.
It does. It's a great place. And just a fun atmosphere, man. They got the televisions everywhere. And
I meant to ask them before we went on the air about how many taps, because it looks like they've got
a bunch.
Yeah. It looks like 72, she says. 72. Hey,
let's tap the knowledge of somebody who knows a heck of a lot more about Florida State than we do. It is former USC assistant coach, former Florida State assistant coach Brad Lawing, who now lives in the Columbia area, but perhaps will be back on the sideline somewhere soon. Coach, how are you? Good to have you with us back on Sports Talk.
Phil, what's going on, Bo?
Man, we're just talking about the Seminoles and what they may or may not be able to do against Clemson on Saturday. And I thought, man, nobody would know better than you to talk about Brian Burns and that defense and maybe a little bit about the offense. But do you think Florida State defensively has anything for Clemson?
Yeah, I mean, they do. I mean, I recruited Brian, he's a great kid. And he's an impact player. He'll play in the NFL early. He got a chance to be a first-round draft pick. But, you know, I've watched Clemson a couple times on TV, and they're operating at a pretty high level right now.
Listening to Taggart this week previewing the game, and he talked about they've got to put pressure on Lawrence. Now, you're talking about a freshman quarterback coming into Doak Campbell Stadium, and really what is the biggest game of the year, or will be the biggest game of the year for Florida State, and because they're not going to play for anything bigger than beating the number 2 team in the country. And what do you think they'll try and do defensively to rattle Lawrence if they can?
Well, I think what they need to do is bring a lot of 5-man pressure, and then that way you can play coverage behind it. When you do that, you got a chance. If you start going, all-out pressure, or what I call a blitz is an all-out pressure, then the quarterback can hurt you. If you can do 5-man pressure and put some heat on the quarterback, you got a chance to be good.
Talking to Brad Lawing, who, of course, coached as an assistant at Florida State and at South Carolina. Palmetto connections here as we get ready for Clemson and Florida State, South Carolina and Tennessee here this week on Sports Talk as we come to you live from the Carolina Ale House in Charleston. Brad, we've seen a dichotomy here with Clemson. 1 week against Wake Forest, they were a heavy run team. 1 week against NC State, they were a heavy pass team. What do you think Florida State, or which phase of Clemson's offense do you believe that Florida State is best adept at trying to stop?
In my opinion, I think that, first of all, they're going to try to take it running back, ATN, and then run him as much as they can. I think he's one of the best running backs in the country. And you get him going, and when he gets going, then you get your passing game going. That's just my opinion, and I'm not there. I'm not there to see the program during the week, so I don't know. But I just know that the running back, he's an impact player, by my opinion. And if he does good for Clemson, then they can throw the ball, and you go from there.
And when you look at Florida State, the way they will rush a quarterback, especially a youngster, do you have a percentage of how many stunts they may run in a football game to rattle a quarterback?
Again, I'm not there anymore. When I was there, we did a lot of that stuff, a lot of twists, a lot of 4-man rushes, even 3-man rushes, and things that we could get after a quarterback. But I'm not there anymore, so I don't know. But I know what I do, and that's like I said, I'm not there anymore. I love Seminole, and everything they got going for them, and Coach Taggart's doing a great job. So that's again, I'm an outsider right now.
Yeah. Visiting with Brad Lawing, who most recently coached at Florida State. Hamza Nasir Ildeen, a guy who originally committed to South Carolina. And I guess you probably had something to do with twisting him away from the Gamecocks and getting him down to Florida State. And he is playing really well.
He's very talented. He's a great player.
Yeah.
I think he's our leading tackler right now.
He is. What do you see in him as a safety, and how were they using him, and how did you use him on defense? What makes him such a good player? But I know he's tall, he's long, lean, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, anytime you got a safety that can drop down in the box and be a physical tackler, that's a big time advantage for your defense, and that's what we thought he was, and he's proved to be that, in Tallahassee. And a guy, when you can drop down the box and make plays from the second level, that's a huge advantage. I'll compare it to, I'll give some guys, DJ Swearinger, who was with us in South Carolina when I was there. I mean, he would cold cock you in a minute, and and he intimidated people. I mean, that's just the guy. Devontae Holloman. I mean, those were guys that I can compare for the Gamecock fans. They'd make your name. They'd light you up.
Yeah.
Anytime you got those kind of guys, it makes a difference. I don't care what you say. You say, well, this, and that. I'll tell you, I mean, the Clemson game, one of the last years I was there, when DJ hit their running back, I think it's one of those, I forget what his name was, but anyway, he hit him, he knocked the crap out of him. And I went running on the field to try to get him off there, keep him getting the penalty. And Coach Spurrier, and he was grabbing me, going, "Hey, Brad, it's okay. It's okay." And it was, but what it was, hey, it's okay. We just made an intimidating play. I mean, he just knocked the guy out. This play's going to last for the rest of the game.
Speaking of players you had at South Carolina who've gone on to do extremely well, of course, you worked with Jadeveon Clowney with the Texans. They're playing tonight. Your son's a member of the Texans staff, and I know you still have very close, strong ties to that organization. You got to feel really good about the year that Clowney is having. I mean, the pro writers now are pointing out that this guy is being the great player that was expected when he came out of South Carolina a few years ago.
Yeah, JD, they're playing right. My wife flew out yesterday morning, and then she's in Houston right now, and she supports our son, and he's got a little girl out there he kind of likes a little bit, so or likes a lot. So anyway, so we're pumped, all that, and so anyway, that's she's out there right now, and the only reason I'm not I had an uncle that passed away this past week, and I got to speak at a funeral on Saturday. But bottom line is hey, we're Texan fans, and we're JD Clowney fans. And anytime I eat for JD, that's who I'm talking about. But I mean, he is a great kid. I mean, I love Jadeveon. I mean, he stands for all the right things. I mean, he's a model kid. He doesn't do all the stupid stuff that a lot of people do, and I love him to death. And yeah, I mean, he was a challenge when I first got him.
Yeah,
challenge, but that's okay. I told him one day, I said, JD, I said, you're not in the alcohol, you're not in drugs. I said, you just like women, don't you? And he said, yeah, Coach, that's kind of the way it is.
Well, I'm sure you straightened him out on that as quickly as you could.
I got as the coach, if that's the biggest problem I got as the coach, then it's okay.
Hey, We thank you for visiting with us tonight. I'm sorry you got to go to a funeral, but do the best you can to enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon. That's Brad Lawing, former Florida State USC assistant. Is that K-Mac story?
Yes. We have to come back with that.
I don't think so.
Oh, we're back, by the way.
Yeah.
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We actually, Pro had a fan.
Yes, somebody's hunting you down, Pro.
We were trying to
wants to know what you look like.
We were trying to find old pictures of Pro. We came across an old story involving Professor and a caller from back in the day, about 4 years ago. I don't think we want to rehash that story, do you?
No, we don't.
You don't? Okay.
But we do have the coach and the quarterback with us here on Sports Talk for their Thursday meeting with the series. Welcome in Chuck Reedy of Chuck Reedy fame, and, of course, the Comeback Shack not too far from us over near Charleston Southern. We're in downtown Charleston, Coach. We're here at the Carolina Ale House. You should stop by and say hey to us.
Well, I'm on my way to the mountains, but you need to stop by Comeback Shack is what you need to do.
Do I still have a tab?
Just put it on mine.
It didn't work last time when I went by there. They said, Chuck, who? Did not work. Steve Tannehill from Group Therapy is with us. They have 72 taps here, quarterback. How many taps you got at Group Therapy?
I have 8, but we aren't live from Group Therapy, buddy. I'm actually in Columbia tonight, and we are live at Group Therapy at happy hour.
So people can come by and actually see you right now at Group Therapy.
Yep, until this radio show's over, then I got to go.
Okay.
How many of the kids who come by there in 5 Points know that you were a former South Carolina quarterback when they see you behind the bar there?
I don't get behind the bar, but a few.
There's a big old picture of him in there in a Gamecock uniform with his hands up in the air.
But he also had that hair. He didn't have that hair anymore.
Pointing to the Tiger fans at Death Valley. You remember that?
Parents weekend. The parents, might come up, but not many of the students.
Yeah. Well, it's homecoming this weekend. Are you participating in any homecoming activities? Are you participating in any homecoming activities?
We'll be crowded tomorrow, for sure. Tomorrow night, Saturday the game's at 7:30, so that it doesn't give them too much time. So, but tomorrow will be a busy day, man. A lot of alumni, homecoming. A lot of people come here because they came here back in the day. So it'll be a good day.
All right, well, let's get into the games. We just had Brad Lawing on, guys, kind of breaking down Florida State's defense and approach to stopping Clemson. Chuck, we'll start with you for both of these games. I mean, I'm not going to be shocked, truly not going to be shocked if Clemson and South Carolina lose. I think they're both going to win, but I think these opponents are – did I say something that's humorous?
Well, I think it's humorous to think Florida State's going to beat Clemson. If you remember last week, we all did say that they were going to beat NC State by 20 or 30 points, which they did.
Right. Except for me.
And,
except for Will.
I think Clemson is, they're playing certainly the best football they've played all year. The best thing that ever happened to them, in my opinion, is making the change to Trevor Lawrence. And actually, when Kelly Bryant left, it just cleared everything up. Lawrence, this is his team now, and what he showed the other day, and I think is the big difference is if people want to try to stop the run, Trevor Lawrence is certainly good enough to beat them throwing the football, and I think that's going to make all the difference in the world for Clemson.
But Steve, talking about Lawrence, I mean, now he's had the security blanket of being the backup to Bryant. Now he's the guy, but this is the first time, he played at Wake Forest, okay, not exactly going into Doak Campbell Stadium and playing Florida State. I know this isn't the great Florida State teams of past, but still they've got talent, and they are at home, and he is a true freshman. Can they rattle this guy, you think?
No. He's got too much talent around him, and he can hand the ball off to one of the best backs in college football, and number 9. And then, the defensive line is so good. This Florida State team doesn't have the talent that we're used to Florida State having. And, no, it can't rattle him. Here's the difference. He can make mistakes and get away with it, where a lot of quarterbacks, they press so much because they can't make any mistakes. He can make a mistake. The defense is so good, and he can always hand it off. Was it 3 weeks ago, ETN or ATN, whatever, number 9 had 200-some yards rushing. When you have that, that helps. It helps a lot. My freshman year, I had Brandon Bennett and Rob DeBoer and Stanley Pritchett, and, it helps a lot.
It's funny. Steve is channeling his inner Dabo, because Dabo just goes, number 9, number 10, number 8. He doesn't do names. He just does numbers. It's funny. I almost feel like, guys, that you feel the way that I feel about both these games, because I've been trying to tell Corn all week, Chuck, that Clemson is going to beat Florida State. And Steve, I've been telling Corn that I think South Carolina is way more than 7.5 to 8.5 points better than Tennessee, because both these coaches, Steve, have been terribly well coached. They've been not well coached at all.
Well, I don't know if you were coming to me first, but the line on Carolina is 7.5. Why is that? I mean, obviously somebody knows something. And the line last week, Clemson, Cornblue thinks he knows everything, and NC State, and that wasn't even close. So basically, I want to know who Phil's got, so we can go on everything opposite. I mean, Clemson's going to beat Florida State pretty handily, I would imagine, especially late in the game. And now I don't know about Carolina. We're going to have to play good. But obviously somebody knows something we don't. I would think that line would have been 3, and it's a 7.5. So, I mean, the smart people are saying we're going to win, and I hope we do. I mean, I hope we do, but we can't drop passes and still win.
Chuck, here's what worries me from a Gamecock standpoint. Number one, Tennessee goes to Auburn and pretty much dominates the second half of that game. They put their will on Auburn. You don't just go into Auburn and do that. So it shows me that they can do it. Number two, I think Garantano, their quarterback, I know he's a little beat up, but he's going to start. He's playing a lot more confidence. They have a good running back in Chandler who can also catch the ball well out of the backfield. And I got to still wonder about, Bentley. How quickly is he going to settle into this game? Is he going to let a quarter and a half go by before he settles in? And are his receivers going to help him out this time?
No, I totally agree with you. I think Carolina will have their hands full. If they go out there and turn the ball over, they could be in for a real dogfight. And you said it. I mean, Tennessee, if you can go to Auburn, and obviously Auburn has some problems, but they're still a very talented football team. If you can go down there and beat them like they did, they're certainly capable of beating Carolina. Now they'll have to play very well, and Carolina would have to probably help them a little bit. But it's not a given that Carolina's good enough just to go out there and beat them.
Yeah, Coach, I wanted to ask you
coach and the quarterback.
No, I was about to ask Coach a question, and that is during the off week with South Carolina, because a lot of their problems seem to be concentration, a lack of confidence. What does the coach? What kind of message can you send with a team that seems to shoot themselves in the foot 2 or 3 times each game?
Well, you just have to keep working every day to get better. But the one thing that impressed me or really stuck with me this week is Muschamp, has made such a big issue of them not running the football. And, against A&M, their running backs touched the ball 14 times. And, that gets back to this RPO stuff that obviously RPOs have a place and they're, kind of a hot thing. But, if you're calling a bunch of RPOs, the defense can make you throw it every down. I mean, if they take the run away and you've got an RPO called, you're going to be throwing it every down. And that's what's happening. I mean, they're making them throw the ball.
Coach, hang on. We're going to come back, let you finish that thought, have a little bit more with the coach and the quarterback, talking about USC, Tennessee, Clemson, Florida State here on Sports Talk.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
It's funny. I feel like you all were trying to tell me about NC State last week, and we're all trying to tell you about Florida State and Tennessee this week.
I have a message for Mr. Tannehill, okay? Let's be clear now. I think, was the only one to say that Clemson would cover and cover easily among the three of us here on the show, and I think you guys might have concurred about that. What I'm saying about Clemson, Florida State is I'm not saying Clemson is going to lose.
Literally said on the show.
No, I said I'm not going to be surprised, but that's not saying they are. I still think, I still think they're going to win, but I think it's going to be more of a danger than people are saying.
One game over NC State does not a sample size make.
All right, let's go back to Steve Chuck, go ahead and finish what you were saying as we hit the break there. You were talking about RPOs and trying to stick with a running game sort of thing.
Well, and what I understood Muschamp to say is that they're gonna package two runs this week, meaning they're gonna more than likely they'll have a run strong and a run weak, which should give them numbers one way or the other, and that way they're going to get a run call. Now what I would do would be to have a run strong, a run weak packaged with a pass. Now, if you've got four guys on each side of the ball, now you've got a great passing situation. But either way, I mean, they're going to package runs so that they're not always in a situation where they're throwing the ball.
Steve, the Gamecocks are 6-6, 6 games to go. Still have, of course, Clemson and Florida and Ole Miss on the road, down the road. Tennessee gives them. See, I happen to think, even though Tennessee's not the Tennessee of yore, anytime South Carolina can beat the team with the T on the side of the helmet, that's a big win for South Carolina. So they can really jumpstart the second half of the season. What are your expectations here over the last 6 games? Where do you see the Gamecocks finishing up this year?
Well, I mean, we got to win 3. We're going to I think we should win Saturday. I mean, that's a game I think Tennessee's not there yet. First year head coach. I think we should win Saturday. I'm not sure about Ole Miss. It's tough. I mean, I've never been there, but it's kind of a crazy atmosphere. Chattanooga's a win. Florida's 6-1. I don't know that we win there, and we're not going to beat Clemson. So I think we need to, obviously the November 1st game, go 6-6. And take the bowl game we can get and rebuild. And again, we're playing a lot of young guys, and I'm wholeheartedly supportive of Coach Muschamp. I think he's recruited really well. We've lost some games this year we could have probably won, and last year we won those games. So we got to play better. I mean, that's what it comes down to, and we can't continue to make the mistakes, drop passes, turnovers, missed tackles. We've got to fix that if we want to win. It's the SEC. It's the cream of the crop. No team's that bad. It's not the ACC where, really no one's any good but Clemson. This is the SEC, and it's the real deal. Every week you could get
would you be with 6-6? All right, for both of you, real quick, with 6-6, should that be viewed as a disappointment, Chuck, Steve?
Got to be. Of course it is. I mean, and when we talk about 6-6 now, that means that means they are going to play on December the 1st, and that game could very well determine whether they win 6 and get in a bowl game. And so anybody that thinks that they're not playing that game to make sure they have an opportunity to get 6, I would question that.
Of course, Chuck, as we close out with Clemson, if there is a trouble spot for Clemson against Florida State, what is it?
Well, that they just go down there and after coming off the NC State win, which obviously was a big win, even though NC State is a pretender. I mean, they're not a very good football team. That they go down there and just and play like they did against Syracuse last year and Pittsburgh the year before.
All right.
Well, now listen, you've been to Doak Campbell many, many times for big games.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, you have felt the chills when Chief Osceola comes out to midfield with the flaming spear and buries that thing
you're
right
playing
there
against ghosts, man.
in the middle of the field, Coach.
Let me tell you something. It was a little bit different when he came out, and they had a lot of great players and a heck of a coaching staff. It's a little different back then than it is right now. I don't think that they're going to be real intimidating on Saturday like they have been.
Especially with a 3/4 full crowd and a noon kickoff.
Exactly right.
All right, guys, listen, we thank you so much. Steve, have a great weekend there at Group Therapy. We encourage everybody down that way to go by and see you.
I appreciate it, guys.
Even those who don't remember you as a quarterback. Chuck, thank you, my man. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're giving football.
Everybody remembers. You can't. Have you been to Group Therapy?
Yes.
Okay, so you've seen the picture of Steve.
We did the show together.
Yeah. You've seen picture of Steve there turning in Death Valley. Probably the most, in my opinion, maybe the most famous photograph in Gamecock football history.
You seem to be giving the football fans in the state of Florida, you're giving them way too much credit.
Oh.
They have checked out. They are done.
We'll see. You could be exactly right. I've been wrong before. I can't remember the last time, but I have been wrong before.
I probably could figure it out.
Let me knock off the recruiting here before we get to the top of the hour. The Citadel folks are here. So Coach Thompson, looking forward to visiting with him, talking about the big rivalry game with Furman. That's why we chose this night to be here, because they've got a huge game. Johnson Haygood should be filled to the rim with the Bulldog fans and Paladin fans, because that's a long rivalry game and usually means a lot to both of the schools. Recruiting-wise, linebacker, I call him linebacker now. I think that's what he's going to be. Quavaris Crouch out of Charlotte was back at Clemson last weekend for another visit. I tell you, it certainly looks like Clemson's going to come away with this guy when it's all said and done. He spoke with Sweeney and he spoke with Coach Pierman a good bit, said it was a great experience at Clemson, and he is planning a return visit for an official visit in November to Clemson. He's going to announce on January 5th at the Army All-American game. And he's only played in one game this year, hurt an ankle in the season opener, and he shut it down. But he is going to play in the Army All-American game. Interesting that the Shrine Bowl in North Carolina did not pick him. Probably the best player in the state of North Carolina, but they did not pick him.
Interesting.
He rushed for over 3,000 yards, you might recall, as a junior. But they're talking to him about linebacker. He said Brent Venable spent a lot of time talking to him about playing linebacker. He's going to Florida State this coming weekend. I think that's going to be an official visit. He's got Michigan and Clemson at the top of his list. He still likes Florida State. Maybe Southern Cal for a possible visit as well, but I don't think they're going to be much of a factor with him moving forward. But it does look like Clemson has the staying power with him moving forward with his recruiting. Earlier this week, USC offered 2020 defensive lineman Jamarian Latham, 6'3", 270, Reform, Alabama. First offer for him, and then UAB offered the next day. The Gamecocks offered off of film. They've never seen him in person. He's never been to USC, but they're coming to see him next week, he said. He said that Lance Thompson is coming down to view him. Will Muschamp offered him over the phone. So obviously there's strong interest there. They like his quickness, as he puts it, his get off of the ball. He plays interior defensive line, sort of a 3 technique. Right now he plans to visit USC unofficially on November 17th. Memphis is also showing interest. Of course, Alabama would be his dream offer.
Of course.
They have not offered, but a coach of his has talked to Alabama. He's also heard from Tennessee. 2020 defensive end Elijah Roberts of Miami was offered by USC. He decommitted from Miami earlier this week. All right, don't forget to check our recruiting out on our website, SportsTalkSC.com. If you're on Twitter, use the hashtag STRecruiting to take you to our recruiting stuff. When we come back, the folks from the Citadel will be here. We're going to focus in on the Bulldogs, talk about their big game with the Furman Paladins coming up, and a whole bunch more. We're at the Carolina Ale House, Calhoun Street in downtown Charleston. We'll be back after the top of the hour.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Okay, we are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We're at the Carolina Ale House, Calhoun Streets in downtown Charleston, and we're here to visit now with the folks from the Citadel. We're going to talk some basketball a little bit later on. AD will be here a little bit later on to talk about the overall view of things, but right now we are joined by head football coach Brent Thompson as the Bulldogs are getting ready to take on Furman this weekend at Johnson Haygood Stadium, one of the big rivalry games in the state of South Carolina every year. And we were just talking, Brent, before you came over here. I don't know if I should call you Coach Thompson or Coach Close, because I'm telling you, I was looking over the records. So many close games on both sides, wins and losses for you in your short tenure at the Citadel. And that's kind of been the story this year. 1 point loss, 7 point loss, a 3 point loss, a 2 point win. Nerve-wracking being the head coach of the Bulldogs.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it's been like that. We've had our years like that. And, unfortunately, we've lost more than we've won this year on the close side of things. But as I was talking to you before, I think that it's one of those years. I think we're on the upswing. I think we're figuring it out. And once we figure out how to win a little bit more of those close ones, I think we'll be in good shape. The thing about the close wins is just believing that you can win some of those close ones. And last week was another close game with VMI. We came out on top of that one. We had a 3-point tough game loss to ETSU, and then a 7-point tough game loss to a very good Wofford College team. So we're figuring it out. We're getting better, and we'll certainly keep on improving throughout the this year and next year.
Overtime loss to Chattanooga, 7-point win against Mercer. I mean, you just live on the edge.
Yeah, a little bit of it goes with our offenses. We're going to be a pounded out, grounded out kind of a ball control team. And that's the way that we've got to win, and that's the way that we've got to win at the Citadel especially. But we also believe that if we get you to the fourth quarter, we will win our fair share. And going back to the 2016 team, it was no different.
Yep.
When we were 10-2, we won a lot of close games.
Yep.
We have a tendency to lean on people and wear people out. And if we just play good, solid defense and we're able to run the ball and get you into the fourth quarter, we feel we've got a chance.
Brent Thompson here, Citadel football coach, averaging 282 rushing yards per game. Is that about maxed out for what you can get from this offense?
No, we should be a little bit higher than that. We should be in the 310 to 315 range, somewhere in there. That's where we should probably finish the year. Mm-hmm. The Wofford game didn't help us out. They played us pretty well on defense. And Towson played us fairly well on defense, a top 25 team in both of them. That's the other thing is we've played about 5 or 6 top 25 teams out of our 5 or 6 games there. We played, I guess, 4 of them that are top 25 teams. So we've played some pretty good opponents, some really good defenses, and some good overall teams.
We're talking, of course, with Brent Thompson, head coach of Citadel. You guys got done with a big rivalry game last week with VMI, and you have another big rivalry game this week with Furman. Who do fans and folks with the Citadel, who do they tell you is the bigger of the two rivals? Of the Service Academy in your conference or the in-state rivalry here with Furman?
If you it depends on who you ask. It depends on what the era of that person is. You go to a most recent alums, and a lot of my players, you would say Wofford, because of the way that we've played them. I mean, they beat us for 16 straight years, and that became a little bit of a monkey on our back that we had to get off a little bit, and we ended up getting it off a few years ago. but we're back at it with them. We play tight ball games with them all the time. And then you ask some of the older alums, they would say Furman, that used to be the last game of the year every year. Back in the old SoCon, it is our oldest rivalry. It is one of the oldest SoCon rivalries. And then the VMI, just because of the similarities of the school. And if you ask somebody around the 70s when VMI was going pretty well, a lot of those teams, a lot of those games went down to the wire. And being that you are a similar style of football, of school, really, you kind of have a lot of likeness there. And you certainly want to have bragging rights over the similar school in your conference. So it all depends on who you ask. For me, it's starting to lean a little bit more towards that Furman game for me. Sure. And the coaching staff and the players. It probably goes back to last year, but also Wofford, certainly.
You know, Coach, you mentioned that ball control is tantamount to what you like to do at the Citadel, and that means a lot of close games. So as far as your effectiveness so far this season, how do you look to improve cashing in when you get in the red zone?
You know, last year, that was our main focus. We were not very good, and hence our 5-6 record last year. Is there was one thing that we really improved on. I just looked at our stat. We're about 85% right now in the red zone, which is a lot better than it was. And we're actually doing a little bit more as far as scoring touchdowns in the red zone. So we are improving there. The one thing that still kind of evades us and eludes us a little bit is the penalties. We're getting behind the chains a little bit, which doesn't allow you to convert as many touchdowns as you're kicking more field goals than you would like to.
Speaking of your game against Furman coming up this weekend at Johnson Haygood, a similar team in that play a lot of close ball games, have suffered several close losses over the last 2 years since Coach Hendricks took over. But you'd really have to respect them because they showed what they could do by beating Wofford a couple of weeks ago. What has been your analysis of them, especially when Harris Roberts is in there at quarterback? What does he do for their offense that you have to be concerned about?
Well, he controls the offense. He runs it. He does a good job of executing it. He is he's not going to kill you with his feet, but he's very efficient with his feet. He's got an extremely good arm. He's going to be able to put the ball on the money. He's going to find his open receivers, and he manages the offense. When it comes to the other two quarterbacks, they're a little bit better on their feet. He does a little bit more with them on their feet, but may not have the accuracy or may not have the ability to manage the game as well. So we've got an interesting dilemma where we're preparing on defense for 3 different quarterbacks, and each of them does something just a little bit differently. One throws it really well, one runs it really well, one does a combination of both really well, and we've got to prepare for all of them.
What more do you need out of Blake's defense?
Well, you know, we hang our hat on trying to stop the run. If we can do that, we'll be in good shape. Now, last week we faced a VMI team that was a really good passing team. They got you in open space. What we needed to be better at last week was just being fundamentals. You know, VMI had 600 yards on us last week, and really most of it came from a catch and then a run, you know, a missed tackle and a run. And those are things that we've got to get better in fundamentals, open field tackling. I think we are young in the secondary. I knew we were going to be young in the secondary. We graduated 3 of 4 in the back end this year. We're playing some freshmen back there. But we still can get better, and we got to improve every single year.
How do you feel about your quarterback, Jordan Black, and how he has performed this year, stepping in, of course, replacing an excellent quarterback ahead of him? And we had the chance to talk with him on the Pigskin Tour back in August. Was very impressed. Is he giving you what you would hope for at quarterback?
Yeah, I think so. He's actually done a little bit more than I thought we could put on him. And we've put a lot on him recently. We've gave him a lot of things to look at and some checks to look at. And he's managed it, and he's handled it extremely well. And I don't think he had a great Wofford game, great first game of the year. But other than that, I thought he's managed the game fairly well. He's thrown some really nice balls. He's completed some nice balls. He's made fairly good, responsible decisions out there, knows what the scenarios are. So I'm happy with where he is at right now, and I hope to see him continue to get better throughout the year and win a few games down the line for us.
You know, Korn talked earlier about the close games, and I think we almost talked about that about last year as well. How much of a teaching moment is that when you at least tell your kids your margin for error is so slim because of how close we play? And
that's exactly what I've told them. It comes down to about 4 to 5 plays between offense, defense, and special teams, and you don't know where it's going to get you at. Take last week for an example. Is we had 2 really good special teams plays that were probably the difference in the ball game. We had 2 block kicks. We had a blocked punt and a blocked field goal that actually we ended up winning by a blocked extra point that we ended up winning by 2 points, and that was the difference in the ball game. You go back to the ETSU game, and we just missed a guy here or there. We threw an interception very close to the red zone, just outside the red zone. That was a key. I mean, in a 3-point ball game, that was key to it right there. Going back to the Mercer game, we were able to hit a 61-yard pass just before the half. That was key to the game, just to create a little bit of momentum there. So you're absolutely right. Is our margin for error is very, very slim. When you play these type ball games and you're playing opponents that are very athletic and good Southern Conference opponents, and you're trying to get them to the fourth quarter and try to find a way to lean on them and kill the clock, you've got to do what you got to do to win the game.
Well, look, we all know these games are just the warm-up games for when you go to Alabama on November 17th. So you're just trying to get everything in place to go into Tuscaloosa and take care of business.
That certainly will be an exciting ball game. There's no doubt about it. I'm looking forward to the atmosphere. I'm looking forward to see what everything is all about. But it'll be a fun ball game.
We're 2 for our last 2 on the Pigskin previews, by the way. Those coaches who we've had on have all won, so we're hoping to go 3 for 3 this week.
I'm all about it. That would be terrific.
It's called the Sports Talk Kiss. Okay, we're giving you the kiss. Hey, best of luck against Furman.
Thank you.
We always kind of take a neutral position when it comes to that game because we like both programs and want to see them both do well. But we wish you the best of luck. We thank you for coming over.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it. And those guys do a great job up there.
They do. Thank you, sir. Brent Thompson, coach of the Citadel Bulldog football team, getting ready for Furman coming up this weekend. We'll talk Bulldog basketball in a moment.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
We're back at Carolina Ale House in Charleston. We're on Calhoun Street, right across from Marion Square, as the sun sets here on the Low Country. I would recommend, by the way, ordering some of these beer-battered cheese curds. They are fresh, they are amazing, and they go great with this little sauce that they have in here. I'm fantastically impressed with that. I'm very, very happy, and I might need like 3 more orders of them, Corn.
Help yourself. They are good. I've had one of them myself. We're going to talk Citadel basketball with Associate Head Coach Daniel Willis. Let me mention, today the Southern Conference preseason polls came out. The Bulldogs are picked 6th by the coaches and 7th by the media. What does the media know? They know nothing.
We don't know anything.
UNC Greensboro was picked 1st, Wofford 2nd, East Tennessee State 3rd, and Furman 4th in both of the polls. Fletcher McGee of Wofford, preseason player of the year, and the Bulldogs have a player on the preseason All-Southern Conference team. I'm just going to call him Zane, Coach. What's his last name?
Naj Dowie.
Naj Dowie. Yeah. Zane Naj Dowie.
This is what the media knows. Somebody had the audacity to vote Clemson in a first-place vote in the ACC media poll that was released today. Of course, Duke was named the #1 team for that.
Was that you that voted that?
I did not vote that. That was not me. I have my suspicions on who, though.
Yeah. Duke was 1, Virginia 2, Tar Heels 3, Orange are 4th, Virginia Tech 5, and Clemson is 6 in the ACC poll. And Marquise Reed, 2nd team. Zion Williamson, 2nd team.
I had him on the first team.
Don't like these players who've never played a moment of college basketball making these preseason teams, Coach.
Well, that's interesting. We have 2 in our league. East Tennessee State, 2 guys that we have never seen before, are in the top 10 of the preseason poll. So, like we say a lot of times, this preseason poll is just some people throwing some numbers together, even though the top of our league is loaded.
Of course, I would say that Zion Williamson is probably the real deal.
I can't argue with you on that one.
Well, let's talk about your team. 6th preseason pick by the coaches. That's respect, showing some signs that it's upward mobility here with the program.
Yeah, Phil, I think our progress has really come along. We finally gotten some older kids in the program. We got 3 seniors returning from last year's team and two really good guys in Zane Naj Dowie and Matt Frierson, who is one of the top 5 3-point shooters in the country returning. We added a grad transfer point guard and a grad transfer shooting guard. So we got old quickly. And I think that's going to be important this year as we go along because I think we're going to be in a lot of close games. And experience wins a lot of these close games as Coach Thompson's going through now.
Sure. The grad transfer rule for a program like Citadel, obviously a benefit. It's working out well for you to be able to pick up players who are older, who are maybe just looking for a fresh start somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's very good for Citadel, but you also have to get the kids that fit and respect this place. It's important that you mesh those grad transfers with the guys that are going through the military aspect of it every day. Mm-hmm. And these 2 kids are unbelievable. They love to get in there and find out what's going on. And, we had an inspection today, and they want to learn how to shine shoes and everything. But these kids live off campus and come and practice every day, and they go hard. They've been really good. Lou Stallworth is our point guard, and Connor Kern is our shooting guard. And they're going to be a key part to our team this year. And they get to live in Charleston. I mean, how good is that?
Hard to beat.
Yeah.
Hard to beat.
Of course, we're talking with Associate Head Coach Daniel Willis. Of course, you've been with the head man for about 18 years, so you've kind of seen him go across a couple of different stops. What has this stop, what has made this stop unique for him and for you as well?
Well, it was always something we talked about, even at VMI. We were at VMI for 10 years, so we were very familiar with the military aspect of it and recruiting these kids, and we had a lot of success up there. But this stop is special. They've never been to the NCAA tournament. One of 4 teams in the history of the original teams not to make the NCAA tournament. That's one aspect that we're really looking forward to at least trying to make happen. And then you got Charleston and Citadel to sell, and the kids we have are unbelievable kids. And that's the unique thing about it. And we're finally getting transitioned into where we got all our kids in here, and they respect this place. And we're looking for a big year.
Well, one thing about Duggar is wherever he has been, it's been very simple for him. He loves the three, lives and dies by it. Half of y'all's field goal attempts last season were three-pointers, roughly speaking. And so that has been his form of offense, and I imagine it helps you to attract a certain type of basketball player, a guard who likes to shoot the three and play a fast pace. Are you turning up the tempo even more this year? Is it possible to take it up another notch?
It is possible. I think we're getting to a point where we got players that are almost on a level playing field with everybody else. So we want our best guys, our best shooters getting those quality shots. And I think, we're still going to fire the threes now. We still tell them, shoot it before you turn it over. And we got 4 or 5 guys that can really, really shoot it. And I think that's going to be real good for us to space the floor. And our conference is made the most threes of any conference in the country last year. So the whole league is very skilled league who can shoot it. So we're just trying to, we want to be at the top of that.
Sure.
Not to give away any of your trade secrets, but do you have designated guys, like if you get a rebound and if you got the numbers that they've run, they're comfortable with certain spots behind the three-point line that they immediately run to, and you try to spot the guy that's open?
Yes, we Zane Najdawi, our center, we'd like to see him bring the ball up the court some. And we have X's down on the court that we practice at every day. It doesn't matter who brings the ball up the court. We need these other 4 guys to get outside the three-point line, get in those positions, get spotted up, and let's find the open guy. And we don't really care who shoots it. We'd like Matt Frierson to shoot most of them. But yes, we do have spots. We work on it every day. Talk all about sharing the ball, getting ball reversals, and trying to make the next pass to get some open threes.
I love your schedule. You have Clemson where you open.
They're the best team in the ACC, by the way.
Pretty good. At Texas,
they're not bad.
They're going to be very good. Going to see Shaka, and you also bring a very interesting team that I'd be a tad partial to, Southeast Missouri State. I went to Mizzou, so I want to see you beat Rick Ray's squad.
Who cares about Missouri State?
I'm saying, no, Southeast Missouri State. That's where Rick Ray is.
Even less interesting.
Well, Rick Ray, he coached in the SEC now. He's not a bad guy. So I
coached at Clemson.
I wouldn't mind seeing you guys whip up on those Redhawks there.
Yeah, we have a very good schedule, very challenging schedule. Some obviously we go Clemson to open up November 6th. That's only 10 days, 12 days away.
Coming fast.
Are you ready, by the way?
No, we're not ready, but we'll try to get there. Then we get to go see Shaka. We got James Madison, who's got a lot of talent. We got some home games. We got Tubby Smith at High Point coming here to Charleston. Then we actually have a conference game before Christmas.
You just wanted to play golf.
Yeah.
Don't tell Tubby that. Hey, real quick, I imagine that a lot of emphasis in camp has been about defense. I mean, you gave up 88 a game last year. You averaged 82, but you'd really like to see that number come down on the defensive side, I'm sure.
Yes. I mean, we got to be just good enough on defense. We wouldn't mind giving up 88 if we could average about 92.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to get to that plus side. A lot of it comes down to defensive rebounding. We're not the biggest team. We're not the fastest team, but yeah, we got to get on those defensive boards so we can clear it and get down the court and get it shot up. But yeah, we have to get better on defense. And I think later in the year, we beat 4 of the top 5 teams in the league last year. So we're going to really mix it up on defense, play a lot of different zones, triangle and 2, boxing 1. The thing about Duggar, he ain't scared to try anything. So, and that's what's made us successful here. We've been a military school 14 years, and a lot of that just mixing it up and just flying by the seat of our pants, and the other teams not knowing what to prepare for, and changing from day to day, game to game, has really put us in position to win some games that we probably shouldn't win.
A lot of coaching is sticking stuff up against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Oh, especially if you don't have the best talent, then you have to try something. If you just sit there and keep trying to do exactly what everybody else is doing with less talent, you're going to end up on the bad side of that. And our talent's good, but are we the most athletic team? No, we're not. And our guys know that, so that means we got to play harder and try things different, and it's worked out for us.
Coach, we thank you for coming by. Good luck this year.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, guys.
We'll be watching closely. Daniel Willis, Citadel Basketball. Back in a moment. Yes, sir.
We're back on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, as we come to you again from the Carolina Ale House in Charleston, Calhoun Street, Marion Square. We are right in the middle, in the heart of downtown Charleston, and we're pleased to have the athletic director of the Citadel on with us, Corn.
Indeed. We really thank Mike Capascio for making it over to us, coming from a meeting or a function or something, because I'm sure you never stop, because as we talked to you in August, you've been around the Citadel a long time, and bumped up to the AD's role, but your other role of fundraising and all that continues. Thank you for coming over.
Absolutely. Glad to be here. I appreciate you gentlemen having me. Yeah, we had a foundation function tonight over at the Country Club. I ran from there to here, parked in Mount Pleasant, and walked over here.
That's great. That's great. Hey, it's Furman weekend, and I
Oh.
got to believe to the old school Citadel grads, just like to the old school Furman grads, that's still the big weekend.
It's a big weekend. And, you know, you can't wear any purple ties or anything around the campus. I'll
No.
tell you that right now. You're going to be reminded in a hurry. That's a Furman color. It's not acceptable.
Yeah.
But it's a big weekend for us. LIP weekend, homecoming or Hall of Fame weekend.
Ooh.
So we got a lot going on this weekend. Hopefully, have a big crowd.
Yeah.
Welcome Furman to the game.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what are you expecting crowd-wise, and what other – you mentioned some of the events going on, but the main thing, of course, is getting your football team a big win.
Absolutely. You know, they've done a great job. They've had a good season. If you really look at the records, not indicative of what they've done. You know, we've played several ranked teams. We've had some tough schedules, and it's one of the things that we're working on right now in the future to give these gentlemen a chance to win some games. Actually, you know, we're looking at some of our schedule the next couple of years. These are very difficult schedules.
Yeah.
The Southern Conference is getting much better.
Do you want to lessen the schedule? You want to soften up the schedule a little bit?
I don't want to have to play. I don't want to have to go to Townsend 8-9 hours away to play somebody. Yeah. I want to play somebody closer. It doesn't make any sense for us to make a trip like that. It's a big state university, doesn't have anything in common with us, a lot of transfers and things like that. I'd rather play schools more closer to what we are, maybe a Richmond, a William and Mary, some of those type of people, as we've talked about before. But we do want to back that schedule out a little bit. If you look at next year's schedule, we're starting with Furman or Townsend, and then Elon, both will probably be right in the top 10. Then we're going to Georgia Tech.
Oh.
Well,
so you're still going to play the big money game.
Oh, absolutely. We're still going to do that. But what we're really looking at
Can you stay away from Alabama?
No, we're going down there to win that game. You ain't got no confidence in us. No, what we're really trying to do is we're looking at more like the Georgia Southerns, the App States, even ECU or somebody like that. That you know How
about a Coastal Carolina?
Absolutely, we've got them in the schedule in 21.
Okay,
absolutely. So we're excited about that. Those are easy games for us. They're close games. Mm-hmm. They're games that you can be competitive in.
Mike Capascio, the athletic director of Citadel, joining us here on Sports Talk. You know, it's interesting when we talked with you when you just got the job. We talked about all the different challenges when it comes to fundraising and visibility. How have you tried to hit those problems head on?
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a wonderful experience. First off, and it's gone a lot better than I thought it would. Our people, our staff have responded. They've done an excellent job. We've held them to high standards, and they've responded. They've done very, very well for me. I can't tell you how impressed I am with the staff there. We're about 6 months ahead of where I thought we would be, even at this short period of time. Seriously, that's how good I feel about it. That's how good I feel on how things are going with the athletic department. I thought we were going to have to lay a little bit more groundwork, and we did not. We just had to hold people accountable, give them more responsibility, and really let them be more involved with what's going on with the athletic department. Some of these people have never really said before, and they have a lot of good things to offer.
What have they told you?
Well, quick example, when we had the CSU game, which was getting canceled, obviously, I called in 5 or 6 people. I said, let's hash through this, try to figure this thing out. The gentleman that came up on playing with Thursday night had never been involved in any of those meetings before. So I had 2 of those people come to me the next day and say, thank you for including us, and thank you for letting us have a say, and actually thank you for letting us be heard. And like I said, one of them came up with the answer. So it's not that always you're sitting there as the athletic director or your senior associate athletic directors that you have the answer. You know, you count on other people, and they've responded. And I'm very happy about that.
We talk about that with Dabo all the time. He surrounds himself with great assistants.
Sure. Was it easier for you and easier for them to do that because you've been there and they know you, and, you know, your door has always been open to them to begin with?
Yeah, I think so. First off, this is a very difficult job to come into. You know, my first week here, we had some situation on campus. We had the hurricane, and somebody said, don't worry, it'll be better next month. I said, I haven't been here a month. I've been here a week.
Yeah.
I said, so if it can get better next week, I'll feel a lot better about that. But it's a very different place, as we all know. It's a special place, and you have to figure it out. Obviously, I've been here for a while, so I have figured it out. And I did have relationships with a lot of those people, and I leaned on those relationships. And I had previous relationships with them, and they've responded very well.
Did you suffer any athletic-related damage to facilities from the hurricane?
No, we were very lucky, to be honest with you. We were very lucky. Yeah, so we weathered that. And,
it didn't blow down any parts of Johnson Haygood that maybe you wanted blown down.
We tried to have that come up, and it didn't blow down the goalpost like last time. That cost us $50,000. But that's fine. But no, we were very, very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. And
where are you now in your renovation plans of the stadium?
Well, what we're going to do first off is we are going to put in the new carpet this year. We'll start that probably in January, maybe February. We have a donor that has given us a gift to cover that whole cost, so we're very excited about that. So that turf will go down this year. And the reason for the artificial turf going down is it's going to allow us to do a lot more things at Johnson Haygood Stadium. Let some high school teams play. Let some local schools hold some maybe playoffs and things there. But it's also going to allow us to generate some revenue because we're going to be bringing some concerts in there.
Would you move some of your other sports like your soccer and anything like that in there?
Probably not right now. Probably not right now.
Yeah.
We do have some plans to try to renovate and do some things with the soccer facility, which is pretty blah. But probably not right now. But we can take advantage of that to generate some other revenue that can help the athletic department down the road. And then after that, the next year, we will put the new stands in, which will be about 3,500 to 4,000 new stands.
And you'll be complete?
Yeah, that's going to be it right now. We're going to have the possibility with that when we build that they can be expanded in the future if we need to do that.
I'll speak corn just because Mr. Capaccio comes off as a very impressive individual in my mind. Why athletics for you?
He was a hoopster back in the day.
Yeah,
I know.
I've always loved athletics. I think team building, leadership, athletics teaches you a lot of different things. It's not just playing the game. It's a lot of the things that you can learn from being around athletes, being around good coaches, being around leaders and mentors and things like that. It's exciting, and this is a different role for me. And the nice part about this role is it's not all about winning. It's about, the leadership, the students, how they feel, how they excel in the future. You guys know what the Citadel's about, what our graduates look like, and how they go on and do very, very special things. So, but I've just I've always been, I guess, a jock from day one, and that's kind of how. But to be honest with you, as I told you before, I don't know how I got in this role. I was going to go coach football and basketball for 30 years, retire, and go pheasant hunting and bass fishing. That's all I was going to
forget about that.
Yeah, I don't have time for that now.
Real quick, basketball season is upon us.
Yes, sir.
We just had Coach Willis on, and sounds like there's a lot of excitement over there about the team, and optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a chance to look at a couple practices. I think they got a deeper squad than they've had in the past. I think he's got some pieces that fit more his style of play. So I think this is going to be a good year for us. And remember, Coach is the only guy that's ever won 2 games in the tournament back-to-back years, 1 game and back-to-back. So he's the only coach ever accomplished that in Citadel history. So that's pretty special. And I think they have this thing going in the right direction. I really feel good about all our coaches. I really do. Football, basketball, and baseball.
Yeah.
And football at times hasn't reflected it. But like I said, the schedule was set up. We played 4 ranked teams. Hey, we got beat.
Yeah. As I told Brent, we should call him Coach Close because whether it's winning or losing, it's right there. One thing about your games, man, you don't want to leave in the fourth quarter.
Oh, absolutely not. Even the last game against VMI, that was an exciting game and a great atmosphere and things like that.
The coveted silver Shaco.
There's no truth to the rumor that you are going to start selling Rolaids at Johnson Haygood, are there?
No, not yet. Not yet. But we are going to sell more beer.
That's coming. That's right. Yep. Your beer garden?
It's gone. We did away with we have a small beer garden, but really we are serving beer at the stadium for game atmosphere to improve that, and people have enjoyed it. It's been very safe. It's been very under control, and we feel very, very good.
I like it when you said that for game atmosphere.
I'm not going to the Tennessee game anymore.
Okay, you'll be down here.
I'm going to come down here instead.
And how many different taps do you have?
Oh well, right now we're just working with Budweiser and some Bud Light, so we're not getting all that crazy craft beer
Got
stuff right
72 here, so it's the Carolina Ale House
competition.
Well, we got 2. So
hey, great seeing you.
thank you, gentlemen.
Again,
I appreciate you
thank
having me
you for
on.
coming over.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Capaccio,
Thank you.
the relatively new athletics director at the Citadel, but he's been around this place a long time. And we always enjoy having him with us. And we will be back with more from here in Charleston in a moment.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We really appreciate the fine folks from the Citadel who have not only come out, but basically opened the sky blue carpet. It's not a red carpet. It's a sky blue carpet for us here today, here in Charleston and here at the Carolina Ale House. We appreciate the hospitality from them as well. Come by and see this place. It's fantastic. Great amount of TVs, bar taps, great food, and, of course, the best hospitality like we have here in the Palmetto State. Before we get to the money, Coach, it is time to do a little high school report. We have a lot of games that have been moved here to Thursday from Friday, and it's right here on Sports Talk with the high school report brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance with fave rates from Farm Bureau. Get all your favorite things like competitive rates, local agents, and great claim service for all your auto, home, and life insurance needs. Get a no-obligation quote today at faverates.com.
And let's give you a few scores that we can pull up here for you across the internet, as there are a lot of high school football games tonight. Cardinal Newman is leading Ben Lippen 19-12. That's in the first half. It is Hammond over Heathwood Hall, 28-0. That, too, is in the first half in Columbia. We also have
Irmo leads Sumter 3-0 in the first quarter as well.
Okay. Greenwood is leading, whoever they're playing, 14-0. I don't see an opponent there. Chesterfield, 14-0 lead on Louisville. And I saw a Northwestern Rock Hill score.
Rock Hill 7, Northwestern nothing. 3:40 to go first quarter in that intra-city rivalry.
Yeah, not a big surprise there because Northwestern's really struggling.
Don't say that too loudly. You're going to get David Cloninger up on your behind.
Oh, I sure wouldn't want that. That would be kind of a dangerous situation.
That's Northwestern's zone.
Yeah. Wilson with a 6-0 lead on Marlboro County. And let's see if anything else jumps up.
Dropping
here
96 after they lost, by the way.
Myrtle Beach with an early 3-0 lead on North Myrtle Beach tonight. So there you go with some scores. Of course, tomorrow night we'll have the high school scoreboards, and we'll go over all of tonight's scores and the ones from tomorrow night.
In a much faster fashion, I believe.
What's that?
You'll go over the scores in a much more expedient fashion than we just did.
Yeah, I mean, kind of hard when you're scrolling through the internet trying to find scores.
Yeah, I know.
We do the best we can. It's time for the Money Coach here on Sports Talk. Good evening, Coach Fran Halloran. How are you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Or good evening,
morning.
I should say. Wow, I'm getting a little confused. Wow, yeah, I was on the radio this morning. I guess I am flashing back. So, yeah, good evening. Thanks for having me.
It is good to have you with us. And
Yeah. So I was just going to mention, y'all talking about games being played tonight. I think one need not look any further than high school sports, in particular high school football, to see how money affects things anymore. When I played football in high school, when I coached high school football, we did not cancel games for fear of cold, wet weather. We just didn't. We didn't do it. We played on Friday nights. We played the games, even if we didn't have a great gate. Now it's about money. It's about money at all levels of sport, unfortunately, in some cases. And now we're moving games because it might be a little cold and it might be a little wet for the boys. Oh, and by the way, we need a gate. Sad.
I say it's a money thing. It's nothing to do about player safety. It's about the gate. It's about the gate.
It's a money thing. Will, you're exactly right, and that's what I want to talk about tonight. For what seems like the umpteenth week in a row, we're talking about money in sports. Now, just briefly, before I get to this Northern California court case, I just want to say that these three guys that worked with Adidas that were found guilty as charged in this trial in New York, right? Patsies, and that's it. Everybody knows people have been paid in college sports for years and years and years, and these three poor guys have to take the hit, and it's not going to change a thing. Everybody's still going to get paid in college sports. It's just the way it goes. They'll just figure out a better way to cheat.
The problem, Coach, that this whole thing has exposed is the fact that they were basically trying to, at least the point of the defense was to try to prove that the schools were in cahoots with these three guys and with the shoe companies. And I think that they did well to prove that. They just got a jury that doesn't understand the way college sports work. And because of that, they found these guys guilty of bribery and wire fraud, when in reality, it seems like they should have been found innocent because the schools knowingly and willingly participated in it.
The kids in the schools are wearing the shoes. The coaches have the contracts to make themselves very, very wealthy. The schools get, obviously, equipment and clothing, blah, blah, blah. This is a racket, and this jury just did not get it. And that's a crying shame because these three guys, they were just participants in the racket that is college athletics.
All right, but listen,
and we got more coming.
This is just the beginning. There's more trials to come because you've got the actual assistant coaches who have a trial date coming up next year. But these guys, you got to start somewhere when you're sweeping up the mess. It's got to start with something. And so, I mean, this is the first step taken by the feds to try to reel this stuff in. If college basketball itself, and I wish I'd have been there yesterday when you were talking to Mike Krzyzewski, and he said to you, I think it was, Will, who runs college basketball? And you said Mark Emmert of the NCAA, and he said, no. My response would have been, who runs college basketball? You run college basketball. Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim, Bill Self.
Dang right.
You Hall of
Try doing that while he's staring darts in your face.
That's okay. You stare back at him. You're running. Mike Krzyzewski, you run college basketball. You set the table. And so that's why I have a hard time believing him, much as I'd like to, because I happen to think the guy's a fabulous coach and all that. But I just can't believe that Mike Krzyzewski doesn't know what's happening in the underbelly of college basketball, because all these other coaches seem to know it, and they were winking at it all these years until now it's bitten them.
It's all about the plausible deniability, but underneath, they all know what's going on. It's been part of the fabric of college sports forever. And it's about to blow up because of this Northern California court case that's going on. And if this thing is found in favor of the plaintiffs, holy cow, we could find the NCAA an obsolete entity for at least the 64 best football and basketball programs in the country, because this thing has the potential for repercussions all the way across the board with realignment and payment to players, because this court case in California is all about one thing and one thing only, pointing out that college sports is essentially an $8 billion a year business. That's equal to the NBA. In the NBA, the players get half of that. In college sports, the players get a scholarship. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that a scholarship and a cost of attendance stipend is not fair compensation. But what I'm saying is it's going to be left to the courts to decide whether it is or it isn't. And even the big Power 5 athletic directors, conference whiz kids, they all believe they're going to eventually lose, and we're going to see a serious alignment around the more athletically minded schools and the more academically minded schools. And you're talking about changing the face of college sports forever. We would ultimately have what we may as well call a semi-pro college football league if this happens.
Yeah,
it's all about the money.
Yeah, I was talking about that the other day. That seems to leave out all of what we would call private schools, except maybe Notre Dame and Stanford, and maybe Duke will still try to hang in there for basketball only.
Well, I think you're right. I think what you're going to find is, for instance, if you look at the ACC, the SEC as it stands today, there's going to be, say, Clemson and Florida State, who have an SEC mind for football. And then there's going to be Kentucky that may have an ACC mind for basketball. And
we're up against it, Coach. Go ahead and plug your business.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, 888-779-2557, 888-779-2557. Higgins and Halloran Financial Group. We're here to help you get intentional with your money. Thanks, guys, for having me. Appreciate it.
Good hearing from you. Thanks to the folks here at the Carolina Ale House, our good friends from the Citadel who came over. It's been a blast.
Have a safe ride to Florida State, sir.
Looking forward to it. Heading to Seminole Land tomorrow. We'll join you from the road somewhere.
And next thing you'll see when you come back to Carolina is my smiling face after Clemson wins by more than 17.
We shall see. Have a great night, everybody.